I have a problem. You see, as a chess content creator, all of my chess games are public on my chess.com profile, which means that all my opponents can just see any of the 42,000 games that I have on there before any chess tournament game. I am the easiest person to prepare against on the planet. So you can imagine when a famous YouTuber friend of mine told me that their best tournament ever was the one in which they played a new opening every single game to beat their opponents and avoid their preparation, I was shocked to my core and decided to put this to the test. The goal was to enter a small chess tournament of only 20 players in which I could use my new method. In this video, I'm going to give you 4 methods that I use to completely unbalance my opponents at the beginning of the game. Yes, I invented the cards. For the first game of the tournament, I didn't do our method. The reason is my opponent played all the same moves online and I had one way to play against it. I didn't do our method and lost terribly in round 1. Feeling lost and scared, the opportunity to take up my own challenge was not gone yet. So I decided to play the method for round 2. In round 2, I was up against a strong junior from Canada who had just beaten a 2100 ELO friend of mine just a month prior. This was a very scary pairing. A quick look at her openings got me suspicious because she only played the French defense against everything her whole life. But then I looked online and a closer look gave me 2 games that were quite recent in which she played the Sicilian with 2 e6. When your opponent plays this, it can mean one of several openings. But if you decide to play open Sicilian, it can mean the Taimanov, which is the most common, knight c6. It can mean the Khan variation, which is a6, or it can mean the 4 knights. So knight c6, knight c3, and then knight f6. I don't want to go in to an opening, to a game in which it could be any of these 3 possibilities, because this is all the information I had on what she plays. 2 e6. This is all I knew. So I knew I needed to switch it up, and I activated the sideline specialist. At 90 overall, use this when you target an opponent with a relatively new opening. Use the sideline from a master game to surprise your opponent out of preparation. This will give you a psychological edge against an opponent who's already frightened to play what they're about to play. And that's what I did. Using the only piece of information that I had, the first 4 moves of the game, I looked through tens of master games in which the white pieces were winning quite recently after 2 moves with a third completely different move than what I've played my entire life. So I'm in ChessBase and I was looking for any move that's not 3d4 in the Sicilian. I don't want an open Sicilian. So I was looking through c3, which is the second most popular in this position. Then I was also looking at knight c3, which is the closed Sicilian, also quite popular in this position. But after looking for quite a decent amount of time, I went to the 6th most popular move in this position and found g3. And then like 20 games down, I was looking for games in which white won the game at the top grandmaster level. So all of these games are grandmaster games. And I finally stumbled upon Jordan Van Forest against Levon Aronian. This is the prep that he used to beat Levon Aronian, one of the greatest players in the world and of all time, in a rapid game in Germany last year. So I planned to play g3 and whipped up an entire file against the possibilities that my opponent could play the next morning. So intending that she would play the normal knight c6 developing move, which is very common for Taimanov players, for knights variation players. Here I had the simple d4, so we're kind of going in to a Taimanov with g3, just like switching up the move order, but directly from move 3, she's unbalanced. That's what I wanted. And so here I whipped up like 3 moves I was quite scared of, to be honest. So here they are. The best move that you can play as black against this is d5. But Taimanov players don't have that reflex of playing d5 immediately, because often in these structures, d5, you play it in the middle game when you can play it, and it can be premature when you play it on move 4 or 5. So I knew that this wouldn't be a reflex that she would have developed on the spot in the game. Another move I was scared of was bishop c5, attacking my knight twice, but I had prepared knight b3, bishop b6, knight c3, knight f6, and then bishop g2 with castles and an easy game. And to be honest, this was quite similar to literally our model game. So knight f6 was played in our model game, and bishop g2 is what I had in mind. And here, Aronian played queen b6, putting pressure on this knight. And Jordan played very calm, just going back with the knight, taking up the square from the bishop to develop to, and overall had a very easy game with white, didn't have any troubles developing, and even managed to have an aggressive center, which I really much like and was aligned with my plans. However, my game didn't go that way. So let's go to my game. She did play knight f6, so takes, knight f6, and I did play bishop g2, but in this position, she combined one of the moves that we saw previously. In fact, I was looking forward to this, the game that Aronian played with queen b6, or our third move, bishop c5. Bishop c5 is potentially very poisonous for black if they don't play well here. And I knew that this could be a reason why I get an edge from this opening, because the best move for white here is to take, and black is somewhat primed to take back with the b pawn here. I can't explain why to you. In Taimanov positions, usually if white takes that c6 knight, you take back with the b pawn. That's just how it is, and that's how they're bred to play against this. In this position, though, you have to take with the d pawn and go into this endgame that's a little bit worse for you. But how would you know that if you're completely lost? Sideline Specialist says this is +1 for the white pieces. And in fact, now we resemble a Taimanov that's a little better for white. After the move e5, the bishop here is completely castrating the black pieces from performing this fork that would win the pawn on e5 normally. And so this e5 move is enabled because of that tactic that's not possible. And so she goes knight d5. Here, to solidify the +1, I kind of forgot my PNG that I created. c4 is the right move, but white has done well enough, and I still got a small edge with queen g4. I rushed this decision. I played this way too fast, but it is what it is. She was scared. That was mission accomplished. And the prep after that went pretty well. She played aggressive on f2. I defended. Then she played bishop a6. And I was wondering, was queen g4 the right move finally? c4 only move here, attacking the knight, but not really because it's pinned. And now h5 was a critical moment in which I had to literally choose between one of 3 moves, and one of them was very dangerous. I did not want to play this. It's attacking the rook, but after you realize that black castles and just brings another rook here on the open, semi-open file that you just created for them, I was not very happy. So I ended up not taking the pawn and went for queen e4, after which it's equal, but then she took a long turn, went into time pressure from here on out, castled long, and so I played a3 to try b4. This was a little slow, which she punished with bishop d4, but I'm still a little bit better here. And now I went for the true variation, the true test. Takes, giving the exchange, and here the crucial move is king takes. Although bishop takes is good in this variation, I couldn't tell you why this is a little bit better for white. It just doesn't look a little bit better. So I played the human more looking move, king takes, and now she took here, and I went back to c2, the only better move for white. We don't care about this pawn. We care about saving this pawn and protecting this one at the same time. So no queen e2. She went out king b7, preventing me from taking, which was actually a counter threat from the last move as this pawn was pinned. And now I put on an absolute masterclass. I'm just 0% developed here, so I'm going to go knight c3, giving back a pawn. So I'm actually giving her a second pawn for the rook and 2 pieces. But no matter, this king will decide the game. I went king g1. What a move, preparing knight a4. I couldn't perform it now because if you go knight a4, there's check first, king moves, and then queen c4 is pretty imposing. So I had to play a prophylactic move that was very strong. And then h4, I attacked, self-forked, but no matter, knight a4, this was all calculated. The queen goes back, I attack the king, and this king is extremely lonely. And yeah, a lot of mating going on there. I went back with bishop d2, she took, I took back, and after a long turn, already on time pressure from the opening that did not go her way, she played the blunder, pawn to d5. After which, I punished with queen f5, and this is a completely losing position because after the king moves, I can go knight a6, winning the queen with a royal fork. And if she plays the queen here, I take. And if rook takes, it's even more venomous because I can take here. And once the queen takes back, I just take this free bishop that's not defended anymore. And so after queen f5, she resigned. So, okay, I'm 1 out of 2. I'm still not looking at the rankings quite yet so far after this. But here were the rankings after the second round. And I still have a second game that day for round 3. I didn't have much time to prepare against my opponent later that same day, but observed he plays very weird openings. So against this type of opponent, I activated the anticipator. 92 overall, let them dance first. I move when the music shifts. Use this when your opponent surprises you with rare preparation. Anticipate by playing normal developing moves and eventually trying to break out of their preparation. That is exactly what I did. So although my opponent had a lot of b4 in the database, he also played some weird stuff with e4 and some gambits. So when he arrived to the board pretty confidently, or rather I arrived late and he played this immediately quite confidently, I was stunned, but not stunned. I just stayed to myself, calm, cool, collected, play normal developing moves, and break out of their prep. That's the anticipator. So f4. This is called the bird's opening. It's quite a rare opening. Usually white opens with one of these two pawns. So this is also quite dubious. So I just need to be patient. I shouldn't be trying to punish immediately because it's not an opening you can just beat after 2 moves. So I went down to the basics. This move opens up the wing to the king, which is pretty weakening, and only aims to acquire one of the 4 central squares. And that's what I seeked to punish immediately. Small detail. So I went d5, taking up 2 of the 4 central squares. My opponent went with knight f3, securing a second central square, but I replied with knight f6, solidifying my 2 central squares. e3, and now bishop f5. You see, I want to develop like this and bring my bishop out, so I bring my bishop above the pawn structure so it's not stuck behind it. Knight to c3, I go pawn e6, preparing the development of my bishop, and now pawn to d3. I don't like this opening for white. It looks very restrictive. Both of his bishops have no heir. Plus, his knights don't really have a future looking forward in this opening. This one does. I will give him that. So I played pawn to c5, my second bid for another central square, the d4 square. Knight to e5, and I just want to say up till here, he played extremely fast. Not a singular thought went into that brain before any of these moves, which means it was prepared beforehand, it was memorized, it was probably from a course, and sure enough, after the game, he told me it was from Simon Williams' Bird's Opening course. But here, I don't know about the course, and I don't know that this is his prep. Well, I do because he's playing fast, but I don't know what the move is here for black. So I try to look at the basics. What does this move do? It ingrains the knight on e5, but more so, it opens up the queen on this g4 square, preparing this push g4 to attack my bishop, force it down, and then win the bishop pair, which is a huge advantage in chess, especially at top level. So I wanted to break that with some action of my own, and I played the move pawn to d4, which set him into a deep state of confusion, and now he took 10 minutes for this next move instead of the 0 seconds he took for the last 5 moves. Immediately, I'm breaking out of his preparation and punishing his dubious opening with a move he's never seen before, and meeting that when you're confused, when you're scared, can backfire your confidence and turn into despair. My opponent, after a long time thinking, went knight b1, which is the type of move you look at and say to yourself, that's gotta be inaccurate. And sure enough, it is. You are undeveloping a knight, so you're losing a full 2 moves out of the opening. And so I seek to punish this more. I take here, which you might think this is contrarian to what just happened because now I'm helping my opponent develop the bishop. But in fact, it's not totally what I'm trying to do because I got knight d5, attacking this bishop once more and forcing it to lose another move. But then you're going to say, well, Zach, you wasted a move yourself. That's true, but I centralized my knight, and this bishop is not all too good on d2. And white still lost 2 moves here. So then I went knight d7, developing a knight, and my opponent uses a 3rd knight move in the opening, losing 2 full tempi. Queen takes, and now you can see the advancement in development of the black pieces, and honestly, the incapacity of this king to develop into a castling position. So knight c3 was played, and I played bishop d6, which was a small mistake. Missing that g4 is like a superb move. My queen can't punish anymore because it's not on d8. And so if I go back, I actually lose a piece because knight takes deflects my pawn off of this and, you know, closes out my bishop. So I got pretty lucky there. Here, thankfully, I have knight takes c3 first, which, you know, it's only equal, but yeah. My opponent, though, takes and then played queen f3, attacking this pawn, and I had no great way to defend it. And in fact, the best way to meet this is bishop g4, queen takes, giving a pawn, and one of these 2 castles going a full pawn down, but white can't castle. I just judged that there was no reason to take this risk against a lower rated opponent with 300 points lower, so I wasn't going for this. Instead, I played pawn to d4. And overall, you know, we're out of the opening now. Black has a small edge. That's all you have to know about the opening preparation phase of this game, but it went pretty well for me. My opponent castled long because there's no other option, and here I'm just faster with the attack, so I castled short, and after h3 trying to go g4, I attacked on my own on the king side, on the queen side, pardon, went back with my queen, g4 I had to meet with f5, otherwise f5 itself was trapping my bishop, takes, and then we get into an endgame in which I am ambushing this weak, isolated pawn on f4, and I play this really nice move, bishop f3, which is the best move by far, hitting this rook and just completely dismantling the white pieces camp by breaking the chemistry between the pieces. 2 rooks here, this bishop still not doing anything, this one still not developed, and that's where I strike. I won a pawn, and then we traded off a pair of bishops and a pair of rooks into this endgame in which I have a pawn up, and I'll show you this endgame in a future endgame video. It's a very interesting endgame, but I managed to convert eventually into a nice endgame position, and my opponent resigned. On to round 4. The next morning, I have 2 rounds to win. Otherwise, I don't have a chance of the top 3. Round 4 arrives, and I just realized at that point that I won 2 games in a double round day for the first time in an open section in my life. I was absolutely delighted with myself. We hop into round 4. I have 2 out of 3. I'm still climbing up the rankings, but sure enough, with some good results on the other boards for me in the last 2 rounds, I'm somehow on board 3 for this game. And I have the white pieces against the only person that I knew there, and the only person I knew in the whole town, let's be honest. I was playing against Andrew Colvin, who I played 7 years ago now, almost 7 years ago, with the white pieces in the National Championship U18 for under 18-year-olds in Quebec City. I remember it kind of like it was yesterday. We accepted a draw in this French defense. We repeated moves in which he was better. That's going to be very important for later on in the game. But since then, he has kind of switched up his openings against e4. So he used to play always the French. When we played each other, it was a French. Then I observed some Sicilian. Then I observed some other things. I couldn't find his online account, which was bugging me because I really couldn't find it. And so I had some prep, but it wasn't really that good. It wasn't special prep. I was kind of going off from our mission of playing something new every game. And sure enough, I come to the playing hall, I play e4, and my opponent replies with pawn to e5. Something I am absolutely sure he has never played before in his life, or very minimally, and if so, on an online account that is completely anonymous. So then I activated the reverso. 98 overall. If we're both lost, I'm home, baby. Use this when your opponent plays a total surprise they have never played before, targeting your normal opening moves. Immediately reverse the situation by playing a new opening so both of you are completely lost. And that's what I did. On move 2, I played an opening that I have never played before in a classical chess game, and I have played only a handful of times online. I think it's 10. And that move is Sir Levi Rosman's crowned achievement in chess, his contribution to popularizing this to millions, knight to c3, the Vienna game. And not only that, my opponent played knight f6, and then I went full on f4, the Vienna gambit. Not only did I not play gambits in classical chess anymore, I'm playing a gambit off a whim. Talk about dangerous. So the thing is, I only know this opening from the black side. So no, I didn't go around and look at the position from my opponent's side, on and on and on. I wouldn't do that. But I had to kind of see the game from reverse in my mind, so I kept knowing the opening moves. My opponent played very quickly. He was distraught. Obviously, when you have 25,000 games with e4, e5, knight f3, it's almost a certainty I'm going to play that against you. Wrong. I played the reverso. So he plays d5, played pretty fast. I take, knight takes. And now I play knight f3. And now he takes a long turn. That is a huge indicator, you guys, as you've seen the pattern in the past minutes, the past few games. When they take a long turn, you've won. You've won psychologically. You've won in here. Because they're lost, and they would play fast if they could, but they can't. And that's biting at them the longer they're thinking on their turn. And that's called pressure. So my opponent played bishop c5, which is still theory. I was quite impressed. I played d4. It looks forced, and it looked pretty normal to me. I looked book, so okay. Bishop b4 here, attacking my knight. And again, looks very easy play for white. I played bishop d2. Looks forced to me, actually. My opponent took, and so I said thank you for the bishop pair, and thank you for the nice pawn structure. And bishop g4. It looked scary at the time, I won't lie to you. And in fact, this is very good for white. But you have to let in something I wasn't ready to let, which was bishop d3. And I said, I just don't like this. Because first of all, takes, you can't take with the pawn. I wouldn't, but you literally can't because it's checkmate forced, right? King here is mate as well. So you have to take with the queen, which is a forced event. And now knight takes forces your king out. And this is completely winning for white. But my evaluation was that, do I really want my king out on move 11 in an opening I don't know? So that uncertainty was the fallback of this opening. And I played the more passive approach, bishop e2, instead of bishop d3, which is what we just saw. And so my opponent went knight c6, rook here, castles. And overall, this opening, I got a game. That's what you want out of the opening. My opponent is puzzled. He doesn't know the plans for black. I got a game. I didn't lose in a few moves, and I didn't get targeted, and he doesn't have the upper hand. I do. So it's an equal position, but I have the upper hand psychologically. I was very happy. I found the plans too. I was very happy. Bishop e1, best move here. Knight a5, bishop h4, great move too. Best move of the position. Queen here. And now I have to find knight g5. Which is not obvious when your opponent is directly threatening a fork between your queen and knight. And the point of this brilliant move is that on knight takes c3, there's bishop takes here, just attacking this queen. And if you take here, bishop takes here, attacking the queen and the knight. Super spicy. And if you take here, because if we take, there's knight takes, right? You just go into it. And the point is that queen d3 is threatening mate and this knight. The knight has to come back to block the queen from mating, but after we win back our pawn, we have a full center, the knight's out of place, and this is a very easy position to target the king and win. But I played none of that, and I went queen e1. And the game went pretty weird. I took here, which was a bad pawn to take. I went knight here. I can't take here because of bishop takes, and then knight here is a fork between my two rooks and my queen, which is placed here. It's a whole mess, but I took a lot of time, and I actually got into trouble. And then, like 2018 in this position, my opponent offered me a draw, and I had 25 minutes on the clock and a worse position. But the rating difference was quite huge, so I took like 15 minutes to respond to his draw offer, and oh my god, I refused, and I played queen f3. All to say, take the draw offer when you're in a bad position. I really wanted a top 3 placement in this tournament, so this is the fight that I chose. He played c6, and I traded queens here, which is such a rookie mistake, opening up the file on my backwards doubled pawns. Terrible. And so the game just went from bad to worse. It went from ultra worse, but then he gave me some relief. He didn't play knight c4 to defend this twice. Instead, he took a pawn, which gave me this one, which was a very, very annoying pawn. And then we traded, and he mishandled this endgame, and then we traded pawns, and he gave one. I have a weak pawn here in this equal rook endgame. We should do a video on rook endgames. It's quite crazy that I had 2 rook endgames in a row. But the point is, actually, last August, Anna Kramling was the last streamer left in the Maya Chess Open round 4, I believe. And she was playing against this Argentinian grandmaster. And she had equal pawns on the board, but a weak one just like this. And I remember Grandmaster Noel Studer told me, you just have to give this pawn back to black and draw from being 3 versus 2 here. This is off topic. The video is about opening preparation. But yeah, that's like the game sense that I needed to draw this game, because I went down the pawn, and here black has no progress after this pawn commits here, and this king is, open season for my rook to check. And so after a few moves later, we agreed to a draw 71 move game. And now I have 2.5 out of 4, and this is the ranking. I need an absolute win to place top 3 later that day, and so I put all my chips in the bag and prepared for my next opponent. After that 70 move game in last game, I only had 20 minutes to prepare for round 5, the final game of the tournament. If I win, I get to place myself in the top 3 of the tournament. But there is one person standing in my way, and that is a 12-year-old who is currently terrorizing this tournament, being undefeated and performing at a 2400 level. He is currently 1800, which is 200 points below me. This is my worst nightmare. There is one key piece of information I did leave out from last round. He plays extremely fast. You see, when you get off your board, you can generally see it's a small section all of the players play live on air. And I had the chance to see my opponent from this round crush his opponent from last round. The kicker was, deep in their game, 40 moves in, 30 moves in, my current opponent had used 12 minutes of his time. He had an hour and 18 minutes left on the clock after 30 moves. Feeling lost, I activated the strategist. 99% efficiency. I don't play the board, I play the player. Use this when facing an opponent with a distinct weakness. Prepare an opening specifically against this weakness. My opponent is well versed in opening theory and has a dynamic style in which he's better with active pieces on the board. And so activating the strategist, my specific strategy against Sarthak was the following. Play an anti-opening, which is what I'm about to show you. This gets him immediately out of prep, which is good because he's theoretical. Confuses him quite a bit psychologically. Very nice to get the upper hand. Aims for an endgame, which is a dynamic player's worst nightmare. I'm about to go head to head with fear itself. And here's the opening I chose to destroy fear. All I knew about Sarthak is that he opens with pawn to d4. I saw it in a few of his online games. And what I'm about to play, I have never played once again over the board in an OTB classical chess tournament. 0 times. Online, 3-4 times in like 42,000 games. Like, I have 0 experience here. But the person who showed me this opening is probably one of the best chess players of all time, top 100 for sure, Yasser Seirawan. He gave me permission to reveal who he was. And he showed me this opening, and he taught me that against d4 and then c4, which is what a lot of d4 players play blindly, you can play this e5, which is called the rat defense. He beat Anatoly Karpov, crushed him. He showed me the game with the black pieces against Anatoly Karpov, like world champion and one of the greatest chess players of all time, bar none, with this opening. The idea of the opening is that it offers an early endgame after trading queens in only 4 moves, which is exactly where I wanted my opponent for this game. And you might think, well, Zach, you just moved your king, you can't castle anymore. This is a bad endgame for black. That is a misconception. The knight usually blindly develops here, and black will neutralize the knight with a pawn move to c6 and tuck their king on c7. The development is easy, and the endgame is strategically sound for black, even very good. But my opponent played a reverso, d5, negliging the endgame possibility, and now I am completely lost, and so is he. If we're both lost, I'm home. That is what my opponent is going for. Ouch! I am completely lost in this opening. And so what do? I try to play normal, developing moves. The anticipator in me is trying to mitigate the danger here. So I try to develop my king side to castle short. So I go pawn to g6, my opponent goes e4, and now I go bishop g7. I don't want to develop this because I think there's going to be like some bishop here. So bishop here first, knight c3, and now knight e7. And as you can see, my opponent did not even hesitate or even take his time for any of the first 5 moves. Extremely scary. I, however, took 14 minutes for 5 moves. My opponent goes g4 in like 2.5 seconds. Extremely scary. This, I'm pretty sure, is like some new King's Indian engine move. So he's vibing with the fact that this is a King's Indian structure with a fianchetto bishop. And so this is what engines have recommended very recently against the King's Indian. But he played it so fast as if it's a reflex. I was like so impressed and scared at the same time. It was a weird feeling. I played a5. I want to go like knight a6, knight c5, knight b4. I'm playing a King's Indian as well. It's not a King's Indian though. It's a modern defense Averbach variation, which none of us knew at the time. He goes bishop e2, develops his bishop. He plays this so fast though. It's like he knew this by heart. But he was out of book, so it was so confusing. I played my knight out, developing, and now he plays g5 in like a minute. And I'm like, pause the video. Like, he just played 2 g-pawn moves in the space of 8 moves. And he is completely overriding and paralyzing my defenses. My knight can't move to a better square. It's on a permanent square blocking my queen. My bishop is completely contained, and if I ever want hope of opening up this position for my pieces, it's going to be f5, which he has already covered with a pre-en passant. White is up like plus 0.7. I castle, and now he's up +1. He's plus minus. He's basically better after 8 moves. He goes over his bishop as if he's about to play his bishop, changes his mind, this is like literally second by second, and then goes for his pawn and moves h4, the best move. Just like, what? Like absolute Michael Tal instinct playing against me. I go f5. I'm like, look, I know he's better. He's completely attacking my king side. I probably shouldn't have castled into an attack, but it is life. And I go f5. I try to open up this file for my pieces on this weakness. He takes. I take with my rook. attacking something. Bishop g5, and I go rook down. And he goes queen d2 immediately. I go queen e8 because I want to support this and I want to play against h5 in the future. And now he plays a move. As if I wasn't already scared. I was deeply scared during this opening. And now he played this so fast, I was like, oh no. Oh no. My opponent sacrificed a pawn as if it's absolutely nothing. The scariest thing ever. This is like Michael Tal-esque. I don't want to go into that. I don't want to take that pawn. I want nothing to do with it. I play queen f7. And now he plays f3. And then I was like, what? So he's blocking his bishop, blocking a square for his knight, all to save a pawn now? It was anti what this super aggressive and silky long castle move was rooting for. So I play a4, I try to create some play on the queen side, and he goes knight h3. And now, as I'm sure you've seen, I have 50 minutes to my time, which means I've spent 40 minutes of my time, half of my time almost, compared to 3 minutes for him. He's used 3 minutes for the first 15 moves. This is unprecedented in human history. I've played over 150 classical games. I've never seen time management this stingy in my life. It's the scariest thing. He's playing almost immediately right after your move. It's like he knows what you're about to play and he's playing it immediately. It's so scary. So now I think, because I'm terrified. I'm actually terrified. And I think to myself, I say, Zach, if you continue down this path, you're going to use all your time. He's going to put you in time pressure, and then you're going to tank, and you're going to lose by some blunder in time pressure. We have to avoid doing that. And then I get a good idea, a brilliant idea. And I say to myself, look, you're a fantastic blitz player. You're 2,500 online. He's basically playing blitz at this point. Why don't you play blitz at his rhythm, so match his vibe, essentially, and play fast. Calculated risk, but play fast. So for the next 6 moves, I play Sarthak's game. A3 immediately. Look at my time. B3, bishop takes, rook takes. I know I'm worse. I'm going h5. All this to restrict this rook and pawn. I'm worse though. So he goes rook g3, king h7, doubles the rooks on this g6 pawn and threatens to take my knight and then take this pawn to win the game. I saw this through. I'm playing blitz as a 2,500 player, so I'm seeing his moves. So I had seen that I wanted to play bishop f6 here. I'm threatening to take and go queen f4 to trade off queens. And now, a moment of weakness by my opponent. King b1. My opponent is trying to prophylactically dodge this recipe to trade off queens, meaning he doesn't want an endgame out of the position. The right reflex, but this is too slow of a move. And so I, like a hyena, smelling blood, trade bishops and try to trade queens. If he moves out of the way, I take this pawn, but between us, going back to c1 and offering this pawn for free was the best way to go, retaining the advantage. But he takes my queen, trading queens into an endgame, and now the strategist is in full effect. We get our endgame that we want, and we bring Sarthak into a deep dark forest in which 2 + 2 = 5. This knight is going to stay on the square forever, blocking these rooks from counterplaying on their semi-open file forever. This is a weak pawn, but this is also a weak pawn. So chances are even. But just like that, by trading off those queens and playing fast like that at his tempo, his advantage disappears. My opponent is still confident, and he goes knight b5, thinking he's going to win this pawn so fast. I can't really defend this pawn with a knight move defending with the rook because this pawn would fall, and then this one would be weak. So I go rook f4, bringing the attention over to the king side. He defends quickly, and now I go with rook f8. He goes rook h2 for some reason. He doesn't want to take here because I believe I have knight b4, and I can meet this with some unpleasantries with rook a5 and then rook a8, stomping on this weak pawn. So he refrains from doing this, and now he goes rook h2. I go rook fc8, defending this double to free this knight, and now he goes bishop f1. So he's redirecting this bishop on this nice diagonal. I go for rook f8, attacking this pawn, and after rook g3, I pause the game for myself, and I go, he can actually take this pawn on the next turn, but then I would have a tactic. So I decide to not take too long of a think and play pretty quick. I play rook f4, giving this pawn fully. And Sarthak, thinking I missed it, takes this pawn almost instantly. He's used 8 minutes in the first 28 moves. What? But he missed my trick. So I go knight c5, discovered attack on this knight, and once the knight move, I can perform this nice trick, knight takes pawn. And if you take back, which happened in the game, I take this bishop for free with check. King up, and now I have to defend this pawn on c7. He moves his majority on the queen side, and now I go for rook f4, attacking this pawn and making his rooks beg my rook to stop attacking the pawns. I then release my knight from the shackles of having to defend this pawn on g6 forever and using its freedom for an attacking pace. Rook e2, some random move, and now I go king g7. b4, advancing on the queen side again, and now I go knight f6, attacking this pawn, forcing the knight back to defend, and now this rook is freed from the defense of this pawn. I go knight g4 in, attacking the rook and forcing it to move, and now I go pawn to g5. Takes, so that I can go king g6, defend my pawn here, and attack this one on the next move. a5, I take, and now c5. And here I'm a bit better if I find takes, and h4, but it seemed to me that this is just a pass pawn and is quite dangerous. And so I take a little bit of time here, and I come up with knight f6. I have 15 minutes left on move 40, and my opponent has an hour and 19 minutes. This kid has used 11 minutes for 40 moves. Describing how scared I was during this entire game is really not possible. I just want you to imagine it, and that will do some of the work for me. c6 by my opponent. The best move to punish knight f6, which is quite slow and passive. He finds this in like 30 seconds. He plays it immediately. Takes, and now h4, restricting this rook from checking. He plays a6. He's bringing his pawn in. And now I go king g4. King attack on this rook, attacking his rook and forcing it down. Rook f3, blocking any possible checks from the white pieces. And now check, block, and rook f2. This is a blunder as he gives up his entire advantage and lets me in on a tactic. Rook takes c3, sacrificing my rook, and if the king were to take, I have a nice fork winning this pawn on e4. He takes my knight though, and now I play rook here. I don't take this pawn because my rook would be completely out of play, and I'm just giving an easy draw I saw with this, or even this, and then just a perpetual check. So I played a more aggressive move, rook e3, attacking this pawn and still keeping my rook here to block. He goes rook h6, big mistake. He had a nice advantage if he found the right move. I played h3, restricting the rook here, and now rook h7, threatening to take this pawn if the pawn is here so that if my rook takes, there's a queen. But this is too slow. I go rook g3, check, and I've been playing this like a blitz game the whole game. Now I'm in time pressure. It's time to continue and play this as a blitz game. He has a small trick here. A good blitz player can see this fast and move against it. I play king f3. If you play king f4, you sadly lose the game to check. And now this blocking moves loses the rook at once. But I played here, check, and now I take this pawn, and he is forced into a passive defense. He misses the only move equalizing rook h1, and now I go king d5, attacking this pawn. Rook c2 to defend, and now I have a nice little trick, rook a8, attacking this pawn and forcing this defender. But it is too little too late. Rook b8 is my trick, and this king is at the center of its own flaws. King a1, I take here. He thinks he's got a trick up his sleeve. After check, he can block and queen next move, but this is all false, as I have check first on the king, forcing the king up, and now check on the king once more, forking the king and pawn. The king is forced up once more. I bring the rook back first to check and defend this pawn. The king is in a bad situation. Rook c3 to block. I take first and now take another trick. The rook can't take my pawn because I have rook a3 with a skewer. So the king goes here, going into another trick. Check here and another skewer on the king. The king goes back. I take this rook. And now he plays king a1, continuing to play in a completely lost position. Disrespectful. I go rook g2. He shifts his king, and I go pawn to h2. And after king a1, I have gained 3 minutes on my clock because I've played quickly in the last 7 moves. And now I pause. I take in all the anger that I felt from the entire game of him playing instantly on all my moves, careless of how I feel, of the respect I deserve. I take it all in. I take all the fear in from the entire game. The fear of him playing so fast as if he's a world champion. The fear of him being a 12-year-old boy and knowing everything on this chessboard seemingly. Fear and anger are mixing in my brain, and I come up with an absolute death stare. Straight to his eyes, looking at him for a full minute straight. 60 seconds, this kid is looking away because my eyes are darted at him while I have checkmate in 1 on the board, begging to be played. This kid is traumatized as 12 people surround the board and see that I am not playing checkmate in 1 because I am taking it all in. I am about to win, for the first time, a prize in an open section tournament, in a section A with a rating requirement. The top section of the tournament is about to be won by me. And after a full 60 seconds, and all my power has been laid out onto the board, I look at him dead in the eyes one last time, and I play the move, pawn h1, rook, checkmate. We shake hands. I signed the petition. It was a week ago, and it still drives me nuts how filled with emotion I was. I run up to my hotel room. I cry. Nobody to hug, just but myself. And the final rankings come in. I wait for the game below me, the game above me to finish. There was a draw on the first board, so I get second place tied for 2 people. Another person was tied, but he quit the tournament before the 5th round. And so I shared $800, tying for second, and won $400, my first prize ever in a chess tournament of an A section, top section. I've won before in lower sections, but in A section, it was the first time, and it felt damn good. As you know, if you've watched this video to follow my journey, this is the first ounce of huge success that I've had in our journey. Since August 2023, I've been sharing dozens of my OTB games in recaps, showing losses, terrible losses, as well as wins. Finally, if you are my supporter, if you are a fan, I hope this was quite the redemption for you. As well, I hope I brought some value to you if you're watching for the instruction. These 4 cards I invented on my own, and I'm very proud of them. They turned out very nice. And I hope you enjoy them and use them in your tournaments, and come back to this comment section and tell me all about it. Because what is sure about this is that it takes your opponent for a ride, and you too. Discomfort should be your new comfort. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day. Like and sub for more.